Welcome to the webinar this evening about the Spiritual Direction Certificate. I see you're coming in right now. It's good to have you here. So the way that I'm going to run this webinar is to give you a brief explanation of the program, kind of like an overview, and then just leave it open for questions. So let's get into what we're going to see tonight. Some of these slides I don't use, but I always like to start this just talking about what is spiritual direction because mm, um, there's just a lot of different definitions out there. I mean, I think the Catholic Church, the Catechism of the Catholic Church talks about spiritual direction or spiritual directors as servants of prayer. And I think that's a great way to think of spiritual directors, right? And so people that sit one-on-one with people and help them in their relationship with God, right? But there are different faith traditions that have a different understanding of spiritual direction, or even, like it's almost like spiritual direction got also picked up in one way or another, maybe not necessarily called this, but by all different types of groups. So sometimes it can get a little confusing. So I just kind of like to talk a little bit about that to start. So here at the program, we really define spiritual direction within the churches, the Catholic Church's understanding of it, which is also pretty much the Christian, also for the Christian denominations, their understanding of it. And just first of all, as a type of accompaniment, assisting people on their path to the Lord. But it's a really one-on-one relationship, right? The act of being there for that person that you are directing in service both to them and the Lord. One student the other day said, I think it's kind of got a misnomer, this spiritual direction, because it's not like we're directing too much. And I was like, well, you are kind of directing the conversation with a certain method to help the person and to enter their heart and enter into that quiet space with the Lord. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of accompaniment, right? A lot of being just by their side and encouraging them or asking them questions that allow them to reflect in that experience with the Lord, or even just kind of showing them what you're hearing and and saying, is this clarifying questions and things like that, right? It is definitely a relationship. So, I mean, you can give spiritual direction to people like at a retreat experience that maybe you'll never see them again because they're on retreat and you're just assisting to have that one-on-one attention given in a retreat setting. Um, but most of all, usually spiritual direction is a relationship and one that grows over time and that you gain trust in the person. And it's definitely a confidential relationship, right? It's you're not sharing with other people what your directee has said to you in spiritual direction. Um, of course, there's all the confidentiality has its limits when it comes to someone being harmed or harming themselves, right? And so, of course, we teach in the program those boundaries too, um, and what to do in those situations. But it is a relationship of confidence and trust and confidentiality. It's being on a pilgrimage, right? You are both pilgrims in this life, and just helping accompanying that person on their pilgrimage or their growth as a disciple of the Lord, right? It's not designed as therapy because it's really walking with someone in their walk with the Lord. Therapy, mental health therapy in general, there's all different types of therapy, but mental health therapy really is focused on the human functioning and difficulties that might be happening there, right? Whereas spiritual direction is really focused on the person's relationship with the Lord and trying to encourage and help and support that relationship to grow. And there is some formation involved in it, right? It's not necessarily always teaching, but there is some formation, um, and to help the person to become a better follower of Jesus. who summons us, who forms us, and sends us, right? Out to all nations to let them know the good news of Jesus Christ. Um, So that's what spiritual direction, the understanding that we have. A common question that people ask me is there a certain spirituality in this program? And I say, well, not really. What we try to do with the students and through the readings is expose the students to all the great spiritualities um, within the Catholic Christian tradition. And let them speak. We do read those primary sources as well as commentaries sometimes, but we do read those primary sources like St. Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross, um, St. Benedict, the early Desert Fathers and Mothers. We try to go to those sources that really speak about spiritual direction. The first course goes through some of the history of spiritual direction, right? So we try to use old texts and classic texts and ancient texts and also current texts. In fact, we just finished updating all the courses in January, this last January. It was a year process. Um, but this is what the university, every 5 years, the university asks the programs to go through and update all their courses. And we were already celebrating 5 years. This January, we celebrated 6 years of existence. So we did that. And that was part of that was updating and just making sure that everything was up to date with the newest resources. So what to expect in the spiritual direction program? It is a 6 online course program um, with with 2 residencies, and those 2 residencies are here in Sterling, Virginia. They are from a Wednesday evening to a Sunday lunch. I'll explain a little bit later about how the calendar works for the program because people start asking all these different questions. But it's 6 online courses. You take 1 course at a time. We call it asynchronous, which sometimes doesn't mean anything to anyone, but in the world of education, it has a definition, which means that the students don't have to do all the work at the same time. So there are discussion groups that the teachers usually hold. And the first 2 courses are definitely once a week. And then in the later courses, they taper off because you're having other activities. But those discussion groups, even though they're on real time and you connect on Zoom with your teachers, are not obligatory. They always record them and you can listen to the recording and do the assignment through that way. So in general, the program is asynchronous, meaning that there are weekly deadlines. And as long as you fulfill those weekly deadlines, you do the work whenever it fits in your schedule. 2 residencies, as I mentioned before, a Wednesday evening to a Sunday lunch. The program takes you 2 years to go through, so it's 1 residency per year. There is a 60 practicum hour requirement. The practicum starts in the 5th course, and you work on it and from the 5th course on, so the 5th course and then the break between the courses and then the 6th course. And then you have a good amount of time, about 6 months after you finish your courses to finish that practicum. The practicum consists of 48 hours of seeing people in spiritual direction and 12 hours of supervision. The supervision is given to you within the courses, so you don't have to find a supervisor. It's part of your coursework in the 5th and the 6th course. We do ask you to find your directees, though, and we guide you through that process, but we do ask you to find your directees. These are the courses on our website, which I will show you. There are course descriptions, right? Which kind of give you a paragraph about the contents of each of these courses, right? As you can see, just looking at the titles, they're basically, the spine of the program, and your coursework is spiritual theology, the growth of a person in grace and relationship with the Lord, right? And then we dip into the human understanding of the person, like what human development looks like and what human relationships look like. And then we also go into the relating skills. So it's the core is that spiritual theology, because that's really what we're looking at, the work of grace in a person, and in the growth of grace and how to help that, and what the typical way that it does grow over a lifespan. But then we also want to look at human nature and human relationships and those things, because the human person has a lot of different dimensions, right? We're not just spiritual. We also have this natural, just being here, and not nature as being non-natural, but our human nature, right? And and then we go into discernment, and spiritual growth is a very important part also of spiritual direction, learning to hear the voice of the good shepherd and discern that from the voice of the thief, as Jesus describes it in John. And then more advanced skills. And the 500 and the 600 is where you start working on the practicum. So it's a lot of coaching you as you give spiritual direction. These are the residencies, just some pictures from it. I should update these because these are a little old, but um, it's an opportunity to come together with your cohort, and to put in practice the skills that you've been learning and the knowledge under the supervision of spiritual direction and therapists. You might ask, why therapists? Well, we do want therapists there just because these are very intimate spaces, and we want you to know that you've got that type of support if you need it. But because therapists learn these type of skills also, and even though we are applying them to the spiritual direction world, there are people that know these skills. So we always try to have them also. The team usually is a mix of spiritual directors and therapists, but therapists that have knowledge. Like I said, I'd like to say therapists that are spiritual directors, spiritual direction informed therapist. So they know what spiritual direction is. Most of them are in spiritual direction themselves. So they really understand that they're teaching you the skills for this ministry. So the residencies occur at the end of the third course and at the beginning of the fifth course. So how do the courses work? This is where we're going to talk a little bit about the calendar, because you might be familiar with the semester system, right? Because that's what we use in most of our schools and colleges, right? We work in the university on a term basis. So every semester, instead of it's 16 weeks, well, in a semester, we have 2 terms, which is 8 weeks, right? So each course is 8 weeks long. You take one course at a time. It typically requires 6 to 10 hours a week. In fact, we always ask our students how they're doing in their courses after they finished and how much time that they spent. And I continually to see that's what they report back, that the majority spend this amount of time. There's roughly about a 6 to 10 week break between each term. I do have a slide about the calendar for that so that you can just understand it a little bit more. And you complete the course in the certificate in 2 years. Sometimes it takes people a little bit longer just because they're fulfilling those practicum hours, but the coursework is definitely done in 2 years. So this is how the terms work. As I said, we have 3 8-week terms per year. And they're the traditional terms, fall, summer, spring, right? So the spring term begins at the beginning of January and ends at the beginning of March. The summer term begins in late May and ends in mid-July. In fact, that's what I'm working with people on right now, getting people into the cohorts for the summer term and the fall term. And then the fall term begins in late August and ends in October. So that's when we run our courses, and we we have new cohorts that enter in all of those terms. So we have what we call 3 starts a year. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, the breaks between the terms, right? So when this is when we have our terms. And so when are the breaks? Well, the breaks are early March to May. So right now we're not offering courses, although we do offer some supervision for those that are just completing their practicum hours. And then the summertime, mid-July to end of August is the time off. That's about 5 weeks there. And then in the fall, mid-October to early January, we have off. So class usually begins the first Wednesday of January, when it's not like New Year's Day or something like that. So as soon as we're past those holidays, the first Wednesday. So I think next year it begins on January 7th. So this year we've got a term starting in May, starts May 21st. Our weeks always run Wednesday to Tuesday, just to help you not to be cramming things in over the weekend. And then the fall term starts August 20th. I know this calendar sometimes is a little bit hard to understand, but I think seeing it can help. Let's see. The cost of the course, these are the costs of this last academic year. We always assess our costs at the end of the year. We're a nonprofit university, but we do have to charge to pay our people and for the updating and the keeping the maintenance of the course material. So each course costs $800. And the residencies cost $350. And as you can see there, it says it covers the lodging, the materials, most meals. Students are responsible for 3 of their dinners. So the Wednesday evening when you come, we have a meet and greet. We give you dinner. You stay at a hotel that gives you breakfast. We always have snacks and things like that. And then we give you lunch, a really good lunch at the university. And then you're on your own Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for your dinners. We have you stay in a hotel that's right near the university, walking distance, actually. And the university is about 6 minutes from Dulles International Airport. So the hotel picks you up from the airport, shuttles you to the hotel, and when it's time for you to leave, they shuttle you back. So really what you need to be paying is just getting here. We're also off of main highways, very accessible. Off of main highways, you don't even need to go into DC to get to us. You can go around it. So that's a little bit about the program, but I do want to allow you to ask questions. As I was saying, let's put them in the Q&A box. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see those questions, and hopefully we can get a chance also to look at the website of the program, because I think that just helps you if I can just show you where things are. Anonymous, is there any financial aid available? So since it is a certificate program, you can't use any of the financial aid that's offered like by the government. We're, sometimes with the VA benefits and things like that, we're trying to see. In the past, it hasn't been allowed, but we're looking at it again. It's one of the projects I've got on my to-do list, just to find out about that. But that's all that's available. If you are a tuition partner, if you're part of an organization that's a tuition partner with the university, you do get 10% off of each course. Catherine wants to know, what are the requirements to become a student? I'll take you to the website and work through that and show you that, Catherine. The background, June, the background of the instructor's fees. Are people generally sponsored by the church? How does the spiritual director receive requests? The background of the instructors, June, we do have our instructors on our website and their bios there. They're either counselors or spiritual directors themselves. And as spiritual directors, they all have master's degrees. Um, so that's what the background is. I don't know if you'd want to know more about this. Are people generally sponsored by the church? Um, it really depends. Some people are. Um, some people are sponsored by the church, some people aren't. Um, and so it really depends how they pay for that. Spiritual director usually receives requests through word of mouth. Um, So it's kind of people, it's usually just through word of mouth. Sometimes they work, like some of our spiritual directors have just started working in some offices of counseling, Christian counseling, that they want to have a spiritual director available. And so it could be that, but mm. Teresa, you're asking, do you have any element in this program that pertains to working with immigrants? Um, Not really. It's a basic program, Teresa. So what we're looking to do is to really set you up so that you can give spiritual direction. And we do talk about different types of people and populations, but we don't specialize in any of them within the program because we just feel like just getting you to actually get those solid foundations of what you need to be a spiritual director is what we could kind of encompass in this program. Um, so that's how it works. Teresa Dreets, is it okay to have two pastor references as one is the deadline for the summer program? Teresa, it's fine, just one pastor reference. If you want to send in two, that's fine too. The deadline for the summer program does say May 12th. But it's May 12th, right? I see that you're putting questions in the chat. So just wait a second, I'll get to those. And if you want to, just bring your chat question over to the Q&A because that's where I'm looking at questions. But anyway, I see there's action going on in the chat. So the deadline, Teresa Streets, is May 12th. But I started putting people into there's an orientation that we have you do. And so April 1st, I started putting people in. And that's really what I like. May 12th is just like the last possible. But I like to have people come in before that because I just want them leisurely to be able to work through the orientation and when we give you your acceptance letters, there's a few books that we tell you to buy. All the other material is online, but there are 4 books that we tell you to buy. All in all, I think you'll spend like $100 in books. Um, so we try to give you those, and so you can start working on things. Sister, you want typical side of a cohort. So we have it be 18 for the content courses, and when you start getting into the what we call the skill courses, where we're having you do triad work, we have it to be somewhere between 12 and 14. Catherine, is it possible that if one is associated with a consequence, might it be a paid position? Yes. And we also teach in our program, our spiritual directors, how to, if they need to charge, how they can charge. Right? There's really some people charge, some people don't charge, some people just do it as a way to give back to their community. So it really just kind of depends. I wouldn't say that it's kind of like a career, it is a ministry, so it's within that context. Are the reference letters from pastors to include specifics about the candidate? Are these on the website? Let me show you that, Teresa. We can do that and go to the website. Show you that. Okay, so let me just go to the chat because I saw some action happening there. Who teaches the courses? Okay, I'll show you that, June. What are the hours of the Wednesday classes. Oh, well, they're not necessarily Wednesday. Doug, I don't know why you thought that. The discussions that are held in the courses themselves, we allow the teachers to set those schedules, so it really depends on them, but they try to take in mind, your time zones and the fact that most people are still working, so. Oh, so Carolyn, this is not going to be a fit for you because you're still trying to work on your master's. Okay, well, come back when you're done with your master's. Lisa, is this a Catholic teaching? Not sure what you mean by that. This is definitely a Catholic university, and we're definitely teaching within all the teachings of the Catholic Church. It cannot be done. You're asking if it can be done 100% online. It can't. You have to come and do the residencies. They're an important and essential part of just training you. Okay, so let me look at the Q&A and then, yes, sister. What is the professional liability insurance which you mentioned on your website? How much does this typically cost? Is this recommended past the program? The professional liability insurance, which we mentioned on our website that you need when you're doing your practicum hours, is we walk you through the steps of getting that. It's about $35 a year. It's for students, spiritual director students. And really, sister, it depends upon where you're practicing as a spiritual director. Most, if you are a sister, right, a Catholic sister, probably your congregation, I mean, I don't think a congregation in the United States cannot have it, already has liability insurance over you or on you because of your ministry. And that's priests and permanent deacons all have that. The lay people are people that probably need to learn how to get liability insurance in case they need that. Sometimes people don't need it because they work for an organization that already has that and gets that for them. June, a person that's already been giving spiritual direction would benefit from this program? Yes, definitely. I would say that probably 10% of our students are people like that have been giving spiritual direction, but want to update their formation, want to learn more, want to maybe learn in a systematic fashion. Then they come and take the program. Okay, I'm going to put the website up so that I can show you some of the things that you were asking me. So here you can see, hope you're seeing this, the website. It's divinemercy.edu. The program, well, just for you to know, the calendar of the university is right here. And so if you go there, I will show you that because sometimes people ask me about dates. You can see the different academic calendars. We're talking about like this summer. Let's use that as an example. You go into here and the online courses programs are all on this right-hand side, and we are called the SDC. So we run, let me go down to it's not cooperating with me, but let me go down to the summer so I can use it as an example for you. So this is the term that's coming up to us now, summer. So the term begins May 21st. Then the other programs, residencies, we have our first residency. Every term we run all the courses. Every term we have the residencies corresponding to those courses. So you see when we have the 500 residency, you see when we have the 300 residency, and then you see when the term ends there. So this is a calendar that's on the website. But let's talk about the program, right? So you go into academics, scroll down, spiritual direction program. There's a little pop-up. This is for people that want to give money so that people can study the spiritual direction program. It's called the SDC Grant Fund. And in the measure I get money in from people that have donated to the program, I give it out to people. At this point in time, I don't have any money in the SDC Grant Fund, or I would have mentioned it to you. Okay, so this is our page. And right here in the left-hand corner is where you're going to see some of the things. Someone was asking me, what is the admission requirements? These are the admission requirements. To complete an application form, and I'll show you where that is, and pay the application fee, which is $25. And a letter of recommendation from the applicant's pastor or minister, right? So if you actually click here, someone was asking me about this letter of recommendation. This is what the letter of recommendation looks like, right? Let's see if I can, yeah, I can, well, I can put my name in here. And then you guys can see also if you ever want to get in touch with me, you're seeing my email, right? And then someone was asking, what are the questions, right? That we asked your pastor. Well, we asked them how long they've known you. How do you know them? So, parishioner, how well do you know them? And then we ask them, we're asking them how well they know you, how long they know you. And then we ask them to kind of rate you. Willingness, in different areas, openness, experiences, others, psychological, all these different things. We ask them to rate you. What's your assessment of the person's calling and qualities as a potential spiritual director? Are there any comments you'd want to give us? Do you know if this person receives spiritual direction themselves? Do you have any things that you think would be important for us to know? And that's it. So there is a two-tier entrance into the program. So you'll see where it talks about requirements is that you have to go through the first two classes. And then after that, we ask you to give us a letter of recommendation. So to get into the program, we just need a letter from your pastor or a minister, the leader of your faith community, and the application and the fee, right? But then after the first two classes, to get into the rest of the program, we ask for a letter of recommendation from your spiritual director, of course, respecting the confidentiality of that relationship, and then a letter of recommendation from a person, a peer, a friend, a colleague who has known you for at least 3 to 5 years. And then we also have an interview with you. So we call that the two-tier application process, right? Remember, I was telling you the course descriptions, they're right here under course descriptions. So it's that same courses that I'd shown you the titles of, but here are little definitions of what the actual course content is. So that is very helpful for you. Faculty, someone was asking me of faculty. So here you can see who are the faculty. And if you click on it, you actually see their picture and more, their bio comes up completely, right? So you can see priests and people that are spiritual directors and also therapists, and right. Then the administrative team, which I have to update, which is me, and I have an assistant, but I need to update it. So that's the administrative team. Tuition and costs, I showed you that. So this is just another breakdown it shows you, like if you add everything up together, 7,500. The fees, the cost is going to go up a little bit next year. We're trying to do it the least possible. That's good. And so advisory board, I have an advisory board, which, sometimes people like to know these things. These are people that I just actually met with them today, people that advise me about the content of the program and what is going on there. I'm seeing that one of my people lost his picture. Didn't realize that. Bishop Ned from Atlanta and Father Sanji. One of the parish priests from here oh, okay, I see what happened. Here in Arlington, and then here we finally have Father. Oh, we've got a problem here. It's repeated. Oh, goodness gracious. Gotta fix that. Glad I showed that to you guys. The application right here. Do you see it? So you click on this. The application You can go in and out of it, but with my experience with applicants, it becomes a little cranky, or there's more. If you go in and out of it, there's more possibilities that you might not understand the directions that are being given to you. So really the application itself that you fill out here, it takes you like 15 minutes. It's just like data information, right? And then, so I always tell people, just try to finish it in one setting. 15 minutes, sit down, you know, it's going to ask you what is your parish priest, and that's giving you the recommendation, right? Um, and then after that, it will send you a link because there are a few essay questions. But that's after you finish the application that link comes with the essay questions. I am continually in touch with people that are applying to the program. It's one of the things that I do. So don't worry, I'll walk you through the process. See, and as you see, the application deadline for the summer term is May 12th. Like I said, that's like the drop deadline. I like to have people in before that time. Okay, I am going to stop sharing and seeing if there's any more questions here in the Q&A. Catherine, I've been looking for a spiritual director for over 2 years, and there are very few in Lincoln. How do I find a spiritual director? Do you have to have one in the same city, or is it possible to do spiritual direction through Zoom? Yes, it's possible to do spiritual direction through Zoom. I'm going to put some. So, oh, let me share again because I can show you. We actually have on our website a place. See how it says alumni? I hope you're seeing this, an alumni directory. Yes, I want to go there. If you go into alumni directory, here is spiritual direction certificate. These are our alumni that will tell you what state they live in, right? And so he doesn't, well, bad example, he doesn't have his phone number there, but let's see, Patty. It will show you, you know, and tells you College Station, Texas. This is her email. So these are graduates. There's about 90 of them here that have graduated from the Spiritual Direction Certificate, and they are available to receive to give people spiritual direction. So that's why they're here. Some people already have a full list, so they can't take on more people. So this is some place that you can go, Catherine. There's another place, and I'll put it here in the chat. There's a place online that's called Seek Direction. And it's a Catholic website just dedicated to allow people. Let me see if I can pull up the link and send and show you, give it to you guys. It's for people that are looking for spiritual directors, and it vets them. It's run. You'll see some of the people that are associated to it because they've got some testimonies on the page, but they're, good Catholics. They're known in the Catholic world for being faithful to the Catholic teaching, right? So this is, let me put it up here so you can, it's called Seek Direction, and there is the link to it. So it's a website. Let me show you. It's a website. This is it. Where I'm a spiritual director. I'm on this website. And so as a spiritual director, you have to go in and answer questions about your living of your Catholic faith and your relationship with the faith. And then what your kind of area of specialization is, if there's a certain type of population that you work with or things like that. And then people come in here and they can be matched with directors. Like the site will give you suggestions of people that are on their list, or it will just give you the list and let you choose. So that's a great place. I always like to show people that. I hope that's a help. Catherine, there's definitely some of our graduates in Nebraska. And you can do spiritual direction on Zoom. We don't vet your spiritual director. We just really kind of leave it up to you to find that person. You can get into the program without having a spiritual director, but we ask you to have one by the end of that first course, which is 8 weeks long, right? So that's why we don't ask for a letter from your spiritual director for the first course, but we do when you're going to enter into the second part of the program. Oh gosh, how does one choose a spiritual director? What should I be looking for? Well, so there is a good book called written by Dan Barr called Navigating the Spiritual Life, where he talks about how to choose a spiritual director. He also runs a website that's called RC Spiritual Direction, like Roman Catholic Spiritual Direction. And that has a lot of good articles about spiritual direction. It's not, I can't really tell you a one-word answer, Catherine, or a couple sentences about how to choose a spiritual director. But you are looking for someone that you can trust, that you feel like you could build a relationship of confidence and trust. And you definitely want someone that you feel comfortable with for them, with their understanding of your faith tradition. And no. Yeah, June, praying for a spiritual director. I know. That's what I do. That's why we do what we do, because we know that there is a need out there. Does your required spiritual director have to be a certified spiritual director, or could you use direction by the? Yes, no, we don't check that because, you know, there's really actually not a certification. There's no one judging who can be a spiritual director or not. It just really depends on each program to really do this. So really, yeah, there are a lot of people out there that maybe are older and there weren't these type of programs around at the time. Although the Catholic Church really is now asking people to take special training to be spiritual directors, especially here in the United States. They really want to see that you have training to do it, even if you're a priest or a deacon. Good, good people. It's 8:45. Let me see. There's 2 more questions here. Okay, I think I answered that. I answered that. I think we're done. Okay, I do want to do, I do want to make sure that you have my email. I hope you are able to see this chat. It's also on the website. But there is my email. I love to talk to people personally. I think I love doing these webinars because it gives you an opportunity to walk through the program, and you always all have such good questions. So it really does help just to make them rich for everyone that's online. And I thank you for your participation. But I do like to talk to people personally too, if they've got questions or personal needs that they might want to talk through. I try to be very up to date also about the spiritual direction world in the United States. So I also am up to, I try to be a part of that too. So love to talk to you about anything you might need help with and your interest in the program. And as I said, we are trying to fill up the cohort for the summer. We're a good way through that, but I'd love to see a few more people apply. So please get that application in. I did want to give you, for you that are here on the webinar, here is a free code for you to apply, so you don't have to pay the $25 application fee. I hope you can see that. It's SDC registration. I guess that's what that's short for. Free. So all capital letters, SDC REG, free, FREE. You put that in when it comes time to pay. It lets you put in a code and that will give you the application for free. Try to always do that for these people, for all of you that have come to the webinar. Thank you. Hope that I've answered all your questions and that this has been helpful. Please do get in touch with me if you have any more questions or if I can help you or any other way, or just start working on your application. God bless you. Prayers for all of you. And for those that are looking for spiritual directors, count on my prayers especially. God bless you. Take care.